Let's do this. Hello, people. Another beautiful day. Yep. Hope your five senses work. Hope your health and strength is good. And to you Steam Deck fans, what's up? Steam Deck Tribe, Steam Deck Nation, Steam Deck Universe, Steam Deck World, Steam Deck Legion, what's good? Steam Deck Mob, what's up? The Steam Deck Squad, what's happening? Look, man. Look. The Steam Deck want all the smoke in 2023. All of it. The Steam Deck want all the smoke in 2023. Gabe Newell tried to warn you boys. We could not find a game the Steam Deck could not run. The Steam Deck want all the smoke in 2023. When I asked that question about the RAM, oh yeah. Yeah, you can have a high-end CPU, that's one thing. You can have a high-end GPU, that's another. You can have a high-end APU that acts as a GPU and a CPU. But that RAM now comes into play. So yeah, the Steam Deck want all the smoke in 2023. Listen to this. Says here, the Steam Deck is reaching its limits in games like Plague Tale Requiem. But there's a key paragraph in this article that I want you to pay attention to, and I'm going to read it to you. Anyway, listen to this. So I can get this here. Get this out the way real quick. Goodbye. Okay, now we got him. Listen to this. Uh-oh. Here we go. Now we got him. Says here, Steam Deck is reaching its limit in games like Plague Tale Requiem. Games are becoming too demanding for the deck. Little Van Gogh APU. Yeah, remember the APU acts as a CPU and a GPU. Remember that. And that 16 gigs of RAM? Oh yeah, it comes into play. Anyway, says here, Oliver McKenzie at Digital Foundry published an article discussing the capability of Valve Steam Deck in the latest AAA titles that were launched last year. In particular, he wanted to see whether or not the Steam Deck could deliver a solid 30 frames per second gaming experience in very graphical demanding titles such as highly demanding Plague Tale Requiem, Callisto Protocol, Gotham Knights, and more. To refresh your memory, the Steam Deck is equipped with a Zen 2 quad-core CPU that boasts up to 3 GHz and RDNA 2 iGPU equipped with 8 Qs and runs running up to 1.6 GHz. The APU is certainly not a strong chip by today's standards, but in Steam Deck application, it has proven to be surprisingly adequate gaming APU, as our review highlights. Remember, there's a paragraph in this article I want you to listen to. It says a Plague Tale Requiem shows impressive results on the Steam Deck. So okay, so if the Plague Tale Requiem shows impressive results on the Steam Deck, how is the Steam Deck reaching its limits? You guys don't know tech. But anyway, it says here, McKenzie was able to hit a solid 30 frames gaming experience with just a couple of minor dips in more demanding areas. This was accomplished with the resolution optimizer in performance mode and all visual settings set to low, with the expectation of texture that were set to medium settings. Says here, despite running on low settings, the graphics hold up well. That's all. Okay, if the graphics hold up well in low settings, how is the Steam Deck reaching its limits? Anyway, says here, being equivalent to an Xbox Series S. However, since the game is upscaling from an internal resolution, lower than 720p, pixel popping and fizzling are definitely problematic. Says here, Callisto Protocol is up next and is one of the most challenging games here to run on the deck. In terms of graphical fidelity, McKenzie was able to use a mix of low and medium settings that performed favorably against current and last generation Xbox console. However, frame rates proved to be an issue due to the CPU bottlenecking issue that saw FPS drop into the low 20 sporadically. and that's where the RAM comes, and that's where that 16 gigs of RAM comes in. Anyway, Gotham Knights is another title that did not run well on Steam Deck, despite the use of low visual quality setting and FSR2 in performance mode. Gotham Knights was constantly dipping below 30 frames per second in the open world areas. Again, this is probably due to the CPU bottlenecking. However, when fighting enemies in interior space, the game picks up back to a perfectly smooth 30 frames per second. See, this is why that 16 gigs of RAM comes into play. Remember that question I asked you? If you had 2 gigs of RAM in the Steam Deck? Anyway, says here, Need for Speed Unbound is only racing title that was tested by McKinsey. The game ran surprisingly well, hitting a mostly solid 30 frames per second with medium quality settings at a resolution at 720p or 800p and a DRS target of 30 Hz. But hitching is still somewhat problematic is in this title, according to McKinsey, with the game also being CPU bottleneck in certain areas. They need to explain that bottleneck, okay? You can't just say CPU bottleneck. You got to explain it. Anyway, it says here, one more positive note, The Witcher 3 Complete Edition shows a different story, with the game holding a solid 30 frames in almost all areas. Graphical settings used were a mixed medium on high settings at native resolution 800p with TAAU enabled. It says Uncharted 4 is the final game McKinsey tested. The game ran the smoothest of all titles, hitting a solid 30 FPS, but this shouldn't be too surprising considering the game was originally made in 2016, only being released to PC later this year. McKinsey used the medium graphical preset for this title in combination with FSR2. Let's not forget about FSR3. Anyway, upscaler in quality made to hit his 30 frames per second target. And then it says here, McKinsey learned that the Steam Deck hardware is definitely showing its limits in these graphical demanding PC titles. Almost all games tested required the use of a resolution upscaler at an already very low native resolution at 1280 by 800, making image quality borderline playable in some cases. CPU bottlenecking was also problematic in most titles. You know what? If they're going to start talking about a bottleneck in with the Steam Deck, these editors, they need to explain it, what a bottleneck is. You can't just say, oh, CPU bottleneck. You got to explain it. Anyway, it says was also problematic in most titles and was sole reason for some games not hitting a comparable 30 FPS. That's on the developer's end. That is not on the Steam Deck end. But here it says, that said, the Steam Deck is pulling. There's a paragraph in this article I want you to listen to. It's coming right up after this one. It says, that said, the Steam Deck is still pulling off a playable gameplay experience where it seemingly shouldn't. The hardware requirements of most of these titles absolutely dwarf what the Steam Deck hardware actually possesses. Yet, somehow the console is still able to run these games with a gameplay experience rivaling the last gen console. And then here's the key paragraph. It says here, it's hard to tell when the Steam Deck will no longer be able to play most graphical demanding games the PC platform has to offer, but based on McKinsey findings, it could be soon, and that doesn't bode well for company claim that a next-gen device won't be focused on performance upgrades. Because people, look, this is where the RAM comes into play. See, when people, like I tell people, you can have a high-end CPU by any means. You can have a high-end GPU. You can have a high-end APU. But that RAM inside the Steam Deck is the key to all this. Okay? If I only had 2 gigs of RAM with the specs I read earlier, I would have problems running games on the Steam Deck. That 16 gigs of RAM in the Steam Deck is the key. Okay? So this notion the Steam Deck is a problem in 2023. It's going to run the games regardless because of that 16 gigs of RAM. But anyway, says here, game developers are game developers are beginning to switch to next-gen game engines such as Unreal Engine 5 and dropping its last-gen console support in the process. This will undoubtedly make future AAA titles substantially harder to run on Steam Deck APU Zen 2. Well, not unless that 16 gigs of RAM got something to say about that. Okay, don't make assumption about the Steam Deck Zen 2 APU can't run next gen AAA titles. Valve did not team up with AMD for nothing. Okay, and that FSR is going to come into play. So in 2023, the Steam Deck want all the smoke. Okay, if the Steam Deck, based on the specs I just read, if I only had 2 gigs of RAM inside the Steam Deck only, and tried to run those games, oh boy, the problems would be through the roof. That 16 gigs of RAM in the Steam Deck, yeah, that RAM is no joke. So DDR5, oh yeah. while everybody else is using DDR4, yeah, Valve did their homework. So yeah, the Steam Deck won all the smoke in 2023. So editors can take their shots all they want to, but the Steam Deck is a problem in 2023, man. So when the games come out, Steam Deck is going to be able to run on that system because it's using the latest RAM. The other handhelds are using DDR4. The Steam Deck is using DDR5. Okay, or DDR6, one of the two. So yeah, the Steam Deck, Valve did their homework on this. Okay, so yeah, the Steam Deck is a problem, man, in 2023. So yeah, it's gonna be able to run the games, man. They put the latest RAM inside that thing before they launched it. Yeah, so that DDR5 is gonna come in handy. Okay, when it comes to games. Okay, it's gonna really help. It's gonna really help the CPU out, the GPU out, the APU out. Yeah, it's gonna help a lot of stuff. So yeah, when they said we could not find a game the Steam Deck couldn't run, yeah, that was a message to the handheld market. Valve was like, we came to play. So yeah, we want all the smoke and we came to play. But what gets me in this article, he says it's hard to tell when the Steam Deck will no longer be able to play most graphical demanding games that the PC platform has to offer. Yeah, Gabe Newell didn't make that statement for nothing. We could not find a game the Steam Deck could not run. And then I was sitting there messing with everybody when I said, okay, so with the RAM, okay, I get the APU, the CPU, and the GPU, I get it. But is it 1 gig of RAM for the OS? Is it half a gig of RAM for the OS and 15.5 for games? Or is it 1 gig of RAM for the OS and 15 for games? Yeah, that DDR5 is going to come in handy. So yeah, 2023 is going to be a good year for the Steam Deck. You know, and the Steam Deck want all the smoke. Anyway, I'm going to leave this video for y'all to enjoy with the article. Nice talking to you people again. Nice talking to you people again. Chris, still Star Wars and Star Trek thing. Bored. Dark Side.